and we can cut there.
Perfect. Sorry, I wasn't as participatory at the beginning of the thing. I had a devil cat just zooming all around, and it took all my attention to keep her out of camera.
Well, the Supreme Court, if they can, be dealing with cats, I think you're fine.
Yeah,
right.
That's a very true statement.
Being flushed.
All right, you ready to pick a title?
Sure.
I wrote down a bunch of things this time.
Oh my! Give me 3 of the top ones.
Oh,
ADHD here.
All right. I'm getting into the weeds. We resisted with everything we had in us, or you're going to have some drama scars to show for it. And if none of those are grabbing you, I can drop it another 3.
Yeah, drop me 3 more.
All right. I got the bug, and then it struck me, or you've got to write the next one.
Well, I don't know. This is hard. Why do you make me do this?
I mean, we're just looking.
We give every author the opportunity to name their episode.
Yeah, we're just looking for the one that grabs you.
I'd say Playin in the Weeds. I'll make my own.
All right. Playin in the Weeds. All right, and as
you have to write it with a Southern accent.
Playin in the Weeds. Playin in the Weeds. Season 6, episode 38. Playin in the Weeds.
Oh, I like that. Yes.
See, I just hire a voice actor. This is Written on the Edge. I'm Vance Bastion here with my co-host, Baz Collins.
Hey.
And we're really glad you're here with us. Our guest today is Blake Allwood. Blake was born in West Tennessee, then moved to Kansas City, Missouri after attending college in Iowa. He met his husband in 1995, and they officially married in 2015, once the United States legalized gay marriage. In 2017, he and his husband sold their home, purchased an RV, and began traveling the country with their 2 dogs. Their travels provide the inspiration and settings for many of his novels. Typically, Blake can be found writing in the RV or by the fire with his laptop and their Jack Russell Terrier Buddy curled up between his legs or demanding his attention. Denver, their Siberian Husky mix, is often asleep at his feet or playing tug-of-war with Blake's husband. Blake, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So for the folks who didn't get to hear your first interview, give us a quick how you became an author, and then I kind of want the also quick why you sold your home and headed out on the road.
Well, at first I should say I have my Siberian Husky mix lying next to me, who's literally snoring. So I will try to poke him occasionally to get the snoring to stop. But so I was a foster parent. My husband and I were foster parents for 12 years, and our last older foster child came out of the closet. And when he did, he was really struggling with his identity. How was he going to be a part of this world? Also struggling with intimacy issues. And so parents aren't able to really, especially that stuff, it's hard to talk to your kids about. So I started writing short stories about when 2 men would get together and find love and all romance. And so I got the bug. And then how did we go into the RV? Well, so when we stopped raising children, we learned that very quickly that they keep wanting to move back in. And so if your children can't find you, they can't move back in.
of my brothers is affectionately called the Boomerang Child by my parents.
Yes. They have a whole movie about that.
Really?
Yeah. Failure to Launch, I think, is the name of the movie. Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, so we had 2 houses, 3 acres. We were urban farmers, and we decided this is a lot of work. The kids are grown. What are we doing? So we sold the houses and the land, and now we don't have to mow a yard. We don't have roofs that need to be fixed. If it does, we take it to a shop. The shop fixes it. Life is really good. We do love it. It was 4 years in May.
Mm-hmm.
So
very nice. And yeah, I've seen some of the pictures of where you've parked, like the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Stunning.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we have one picture. My favorite picture of the RV is actually in Big Bend National Park.
Yep.
I was so taken with Big Bend National Park that I wrote a series, and we talked about that last time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's beautiful. It's sitting, the RV is sitting in this valley, and you can see all of these volcanic buttes around it. I mean, it's just fantastic. And then there's one where we're looking into the Badlands. That was a scary night because, we were about to go over. It looked like we were about to go over a cliff, and the winds were blowing. It was insane. Anyway, yes, we love it.
Awesome. Well, you've got a new series coming up, Coming Home.
Yeah, so I turned 50 in May, and that was a big deal. If you're on my Facebook account, you got to be a part of all of the insane shenanigans we were getting up to. But so one of the realities is when I left Tennessee, I left rural West Tennessee, a little tiny village called Jacks Creek. And the county is smaller than most towns. So, I mean, I'm not smaller, but fewer people population-wise. And I look back this year and I realized that all of my cousins had kids that are grown and I don't know them. And the church that I grew up in, all of the people I went to church with, all of these people I didn't have a relationship with them anymore. And it struck me. Now I have an incredible network of friends and family in Kansas City that I have built over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still, there's a whole, I'm doing my ancestry stuff now too. And I have such a deep history in Tennessee. I have Native American family that was from Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee. And then you have all of the European settlers who came over that fought in the Revolutionary War. Anyway, I'm getting into the weeds. Basically, I look back and I realized that I have such a history there that was lost when I moved. And so I started writing a sweet romance series, so no sex scenes. I was thinking Hallmark might one day want to turn this into a series. Nice. Or someone, Netflix, I don't, anyone. I would just love to have it, something like that happen. So I started writing, and the next thing I know, I'm 6 books in. And those will start coming out in January or February of next year.
Very cool. So tell us about the first one.
Well, I'm still debating on which one will be the first one.
Oh, really? So are they non-sequential?
They are, for the most part, they are sequential.
Okay.
So I have the very first book. I wrote this literally as a series, a television series, as each couple got together. And it's a really small town called Crawford City in Tennessee, not far from Nashville, and in the Appalachian Mountains. So that's the other side of the state from where I grew up.
Okay.
But, and I did that on purpose because I didn't want any of my classmates to sue me. So the first book, I think, will be about 2 doctors. And it's really kind of a shadow of my own family history and my own background. But one guy ends up going to Harvard that's from Tennessee. He meets a guy at Harvard, actually. And this guy is just extreme opposite. So the Tennessee guy is a foster child. I was not a foster child, but I wanted to show just how different these two could be. Mm-hmm. So the Tennessee guy was a foster child, and the doctor that he ends up marrying as they both graduate from Harvard Medical School, his dad runs a very large hospital on Long Island. So I mean, just the extreme opposite. And I had also read Stephen King novel about, not novel, but his how-to story about writing.
Yep.
And I ended up using a lot of his tactics, which I had never done before. So there was a lot of weeping from my part as I'm dealing with all of the drama that, Stephen King would have. Anyway, long story short, it's a highly dramatic story about two men who have to learn to be together. They both end up in this small town in rural West Tennessee. Rural Middle Tennessee.
One of the things I had noticed from your write-up too is it's also about the town having to come into the modern world.
Yeah, so there's a reason why I haven't moved back to Tennessee.
Just one?
Where I grew up is, well, there's several. But one of the main ones is it never has really come to accept homosexual people. And even today, it can be really nasty. I have a few friends that still live there that they've had to come out of the closet. And, they talk a little bit about just how painful it can be. And so I wanted to write a story about what would happen if a small town was able to let go of their homophobia and let the people from their community just be who they are. And so it is a work of fiction, but I do think that communities can change. I've seen it in my lifetime. I've not seen it in my childhood home, but I have seen it in my lifetime.
All right. So you said there were two possible starting points. Can I ask what the other one is?
So the other one is, it kind of is, I think, so these two guys moved to Crawford City. The one that started there is a native son. His family had actually immigrated to Tennessee from the Caribbean. And when I grew up, there's a little town on the river, on the Tennessee River, that wasn't very far from my home. And I kind of based it on this town. Now, luckily, I don't know anyone from that town. So, I wasn't mimicking it from anyone in particular. But there were two houses. One was an old antebellum home from before the Civil War, and the other one was a turn of the century, the 1900s, a huge, huge house. And I thought, well, what would happen if these two families lived next door? So this is an enemies to lovers, a second chance novel. The two guys grew up right next door to each other and ended up having a relationship. So, these guys are a lot younger than me. So, the younger generation doesn't seem to be as put off about coming out of the closet in high school. It wouldn't have happened when I was in high school. But so I wanted to show these two as boyfriends. And then, of course, there's drama that broke them up. One becomes a doctor. There ties in the other two. And then the other became started running his own construction company. So
cool.
The novel starts with him falling off his dad's roof. And then there's a lot of drama that doesn't really stop.
All right. There's a whole metaphor for, falling for his neighbor in there too, isn't there?
Oh, yes. Well, and of course the neighbor wants to rehab the home. The doctor neighbor wants to rehab his house, and he's obsessed with it. I kind of get all of these characters in some way mimic me, and in that way I'm really obsessed with rehabbing homes. In fact, we owned a company to do that for a while until 9/11 put us out of business.
Right.
But yeah, so I represent the doctor guy in this one.
That's fair.
So.
All right. So the particulars, when should people start looking for announcements on the release of the first book?
So I would imagine they will officially go up for pre-sale sometime in December.
Okay.
So a month or two, unless I'm able to get the covers done sooner, which is very possible.
Nice. Yeah. So where should people watch for those announcements? And I know we ask for socials at the end usually, but this sounds important now.
So if you go to Facebook, Blake Allwood, I'm one of the few that exists, thank goodness. So if you look for Blake Allwood author, you should pull it up. If you look for author Blake Allwood, That's my page. I gave them 2 distinct names. So, but if you look for either one of those, you'll be able to find me.
Perfect.
And I will do all the announcements there. Twitter, I also will announce on Twitter.
Okay, cool. Now, our other topic has to do with a cruise that isn't happening and a party that is.
I'm so sick of COVID.
I
Really,
know.
why can't it end? Why
The
is
line
this
forms
over?
there.
So we resisted with everything we had in us. There was so much hope, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, that we were going to be able to get past COVID.
Mhm.
Enough that those of us who've been vaccinated can go and live in the world. So I am in Washington, not very far from Mount Rainier. In fact, we were camping at the base of Mount Rainier a good
Nice.
portion of the summer, which is truly gorgeous here, by the way.
Mhm. Yep.
As a side note. And it doesn't rain very much in the summer. The winter it's miserable, but in the summer not so much. But my husband is working at a very small hospital in this area in Lewis County, and every day he's losing patients, and then a huge amount of them are sick. So as COVID has gotten worse again, we finally decided we just have to cancel. I mean, it's just not safe. And, the CDC is saying, we should be looking maybe at getting boosters. There are some people who are getting sick who've had the vaccine, not very many, but we're seeing that trend.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to decide to let it go. So, but there is good news to this. We are having an FU COVID party, the 8th through the 15th. I think it'll be on my Facebook page. We may also do it on some of the other platforms as well, but we want to have a big celebration where we just kind of stick our middle finger up at COVID. I mean, I think we're all sick of it. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know. I've reached a point where when I see someone who's wearing their mask below their noses, I want to spray aerosol cans in their faces.
I know. Me too. And then, so many of the people around here will not get vaccinated. And I don't understand. And I do understand. I definitely get where the concern was, because at the very beginning, I was concerned as well about what the vaccine, but it was, it happened so quickly. But then, science has just read and you can see the realities of it. It's not going to hurt us. COVID will. Right. And so those are your 2 issues. You're not going to get sick. Well, that's not true. I did get sick when I took the vaccine, and I tell people, it will make you feel bad, but it won't
better that than
right.
Yeah, and so you feel like you have the flu for 2 days. I mean, come on, it's fine.
Right. Well, and the other thing too, I mean, I was a little nervous as well because of the speed, until they pointed out that they'd been working on this vaccine for 10 years because of other SARS-based infections.
Yes.
Right.
And so they already had a baseline.
Right. And
they were able to move it fast for a reason.
Yeah.
Right. The thing is, people don't understand medicine does not move at the pace they remember as a child or their parents' age.
Right.
It is moving at breakneck speed because once they mapped the human genome, it changed everything for medicine. Yeah. And that's one of the things that people need to get in their heads. But the common argument is, well, look at the whole thing with Nicki Minaj this week, talking about her cousins, friends, testicles, ballooning and all that. Girl, if that had happened, trust me, if it was men that were experiencing that from the thing, we would have heard about it the very first time it happened. It would not have been a year later, Right. And so I think that, to your point, especially with your husband working in healthcare, it's really, really frustrating for people to say, oh, I don't know, I don't know what's, girl, you drink Diet Coke, you don't know what's in that either, and you put that in your body. They got women shooting shit in their ass to make it bulbous like, Kardashians. That is a bullshit argument. People just need to get a grip. It's really just a own the libs stupid mentality, which is really dumb for the GOP. And I don't mean to get totally political, but to your point about we're tired of COVID, it's ridiculous. There is no reason for us to be here other than rampant stupidity.
Well, it's Well, it's a level of ignorance, and it's glorified ignorance. That's
Right, and they revel in it.
Yeah, it's glorified ignorance. And like I said before, I do get where they were coming from 1 year ago, because it was scary at first. We didn't have a lot of information.
Mhm.
That is not the case now. We
Right.
know what the vaccine can and can't do. Millions and millions of people have had the vaccine. We know it. We know it.
Mhm.
And we know it's not going to hurt you.
Right.
What I think, what I'm hearing here in this part of the world is, I don't think people should be telling me what to do. And it's like, well, I don't think you should try to be killing me, everybody, because you don't want to take the vaccine.
Well, and here's my answer to that. To everyone who says that to me physically, I'm like, no, this is not a political issue. This is a public safety issue.
Correct.
You've got your measles vaccine. You get your flu shot every year. You're inoculated against smallpox and polio. I don't understand your disconnect. And when you present it that way, a lot of times they have to at least shut up and think for a minute, and then you can make your getaway.
My last comment was, well, that's what you hire these people for. That's why we're paying them all the money we're paying them, and that's why we don't get, totally mad when they're, becoming millionaires on $100,000 a year.
Right.
Well, I go to President Biden's point. This whole thing is just really, we've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin.
Yeah.
Because you're hammering the medical profession so damn hard for no reason. None. Zero. We've been through this already. We've covered it. We've answered the questions. Nikki, what the hell were you thinking with that post? And girl,
Nikki
it's just
really
getting
bothered
worse.
you, didn't
You got a whole freaking country of Trinidad Tobago literally angry with her because they got hauled into it. They had to spend time trying to dispel her stupid, post. It's like, girl, when you got that many people following you, you best have some responsibility for what you put out there,
Mhm.
And I think I think social media, and I think Facebook is the biggest problem. I think Congress needs to hammer Zuckerberg into the ground and say, look, if you don't deal with this, we're going to take over the company. We're going to have to, say it's a monopoly, and we're going to have to get rid of your ass. So
just like Bell back in the day, they had to break up the Bell.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because that's what they do. They literally buy up all the competition, and they fold it into Facebook, and then they slowly, quietly get rid of it. They tear everything down. So, there's a reason to go after this whole thing. And Zuckerberg and his ilk are to blame for it. And there are people in the social media industry who actually built these apps who say, yes, you know what? We built algorithms that do this purposely to mislead the public, because that drama keeps them coming back on our platform. Therefore, we can continue to advertise and push stuff to you.
So
you're going to get me banned from Facebook, aren't you?
Say let's put a positive spin in this conversation. And Blake, how are you going to keep your FU COVID party on a slightly upbeat note? I mean, I know there's going to be some finger raising, which is great.
I think we're just going to party. I don't think you have to, just because we're mad at COVID doesn't mean you have to focus on all the negative. I think we have to be respectful to those who we've lost, especially those to all those we've lost, because even those who are choosing to glorify ignorance and have died as a result, this is still a pandemic, and it's a pandemic of ignorance as well. So I think we have to look at that and appreciate that and respect that. But at the same time, we're all sick and tired of it. So let's play. Let's have a big. My goal and hope. I have not been able to organize it, so it may not work out this way. But my hope is that we can get a bunch of authors to donate books, to donate bling, and that we can have an auction. And then, in the spirit of hope, the money that we raise for that maybe can be used to offset costs for a cruise in 2023. Or another thing that we can do, because surely within a year, surely COVID will go away, and then we can start living our lives again. But I would also, I'd like to see, the ability to give scholarships to people who want to come and to play. And so that's the goal, is that we're planning for the future, hoping for the future, and respectful for those who lost their lives during the pandemic. And, I lost people who are incredibly close to me in that pandemic as well. So yeah, I don't want to be disrespectful, but at the same time, I want to flip it off. I'm
Right.
sick of it.
Understood. I love that, by the way. And we'll do our part to tell people that it's time to go party.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So the cruise was supposed to start on the 8th. And so I thought, let's just do the party on the 8th.
Perfect.
What a great way to just, say, screw you, COVID.
There you go.
Awesome.
There you go.
So our usual next question is, what's up next for you? I know you're working on the Coming Home series, and it sounds like you're working on covers.
So I have a series that's coming out now. In 2020, early part of 2020, I released Romantic Renovations, and I had enough people who hounded me. I never meant for that to be a series, but I had a group of about 20 people who were like, "You've got to write the next one. You've got to write the next one." It's very different from my other books. I think anyone who reads my books knows that I like to experiment with the different subgenres. And Romantic Renovations is a suspense. It was my first effort at writing a suspense. So I went ahead and took I listened to my fans, and I wrote 2 other novels based upon Romantic Renovations, and it's called the Romantic series now. And Romantic Rescue comes out this month. And Romantic Rescue is the very first book I ever wrote. It just adapted extremely well with Romantic Renovations, because Romantic Renovations happens in Seattle. Romantic Rescue happens in Seattle and Port Angeles, which is on the Olympic Peninsula, right by the national park. And so that book will come out this month on the 23rd. And it's up for pre-sale at the moment. Excuse me. And then one of the characters in Romantic Renovations was this mafia type guy who he's no longer in the mafia. He's working with the government, and he's this giant of a man. He's probably in his 40s, although I didn't mention that in the book. But I let him have his love story as well. And so that one's called Romantic Recon, which it's very heavy on the suspense, not as heavy on the romance, but those will be coming out this fall. So that one comes out at the end of October. Rom Recon does. And so, and then the books that I told you about, the Coming Home books, and then I have a 4-part male witch series. And that's all men who are in their late 30s, early 40s.
Okay.
I'm giving a nod to the my older fans.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Also explains your choice of Halloween costume.
Well, I've been obsessed with that for a while. It was actually that someone put a male witch on Facebook like 5 years ago, and it's a really hot picture. And I'm like, I like that. So since then, I've been obsessed. What can I say? It doesn't take much to get me obsessed.
No, own it.
Right.
Own it. That's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah,
I do fully.
Cool. All right. Let's drop your Facebook page again.
So Blake Allwood, author. I'm sorry, Blake Allwood, author is my Facebook page account, and then author Blake Allwood is my page.
Perfect. All right. Any final words of wisdom?
Get through COVID best way you can, and the best way you can is to read lots and lots of happy books.
Amen. All right, folks, this is Written on the Edge. The Rope Podcast is produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For our disclaimers, links to social media, our listen station, or to sign up as a guest, visit www.ropepodcast.com. We'd like to extend a huge thank you to Blake Allwood for coming back and sharing with us all of the fun stuff he's doing. Blake, thank you.
Just got to wonder where he's going to be next time.
Right?
Never know.
All right, folks, head to blakeallwood.com or his Facebook page, Blake Allwood Author, and pick up a book, read something amazing, or sign up for the party and flip a finger at COVID. You've got all these options ahead of you. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Oh, what's that? Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.